Welcome to GoVMlab, India's first job-ready VMware learning platform where professionals meet experts to revolutionize their VMware careers.
So now let's move on to the next module of our program. And in this particular module, we actually gonna go and talk about a very quick overview of vSphere, NSX, vSAN, and the ARIA suite. In the yesterday session, we have walked you through why exactly industry requires SDDC, what are the key building blocks of the SDDC, right? And then we talk about that whenever we talk about VMware SDDC, VMware have a multiple products which come together and help us to build a next generation of software-defined data center. And there are 4 pillars of this SDDC: vSphere, NSX, vSAN, and ARIA suite. These are the dedicated product. VMware is already having it, but we'll have a quick overview that where their positioning is in the SDDC architecture, what we discussed in the previous module, right? So let's go and get started with it. So this is about your traditional compute infrastructure, right? So I think everybody is aware about the vSphere product, right? So what do you see in this particular slide? You have a dedicated physical servers and you are running a single instance of application or maybe single instance of operating system on that physical server, right? That is the traditional architecture, what we have already witnessed, right? It's a very inefficient architecture. We all know that the reasons behind it. The capital cost is very high. If you need to run more applications, more workloads, you require more servers. More servers require more capital expenditures. Then obviously the lack of mobility, you cannot migrate your applications runtime, right? Whenever you go and upgrade your infrastructure or maybe your server is having some kind of breakdowns, right? And that is where what happens. We have seen the evolution of VMware vSphere product, right? Or so-called virtualization layer, your ESXi hypervisor, right? What the hypervisor does, it actually get installed on top of your physical servers and that become a layer of abstraction, what we just discussed in previous module. And then we create a multiple instances of operating system, and these multiple instances of operating system, what you see that is actually managed by your ESXi host, right? And that is what we call it as a virtualization. And this particular virtualization is a server virtualization. Why server virtualization? Because we have virtualized your physical servers into virtual machines, right? And that is the reason it's all about your virtual machines. And whenever we talk about virtual machines are logical representations of your physical servers, bare metal servers. And hence, we call it as a server virtualization. What are the benefits of this particular product? We all know that it's more efficient in terms of your hardware, right? Your capital expenditures are very less because it's all about the consolidation now. Your mobility, the vMotion, storage vMotion, DRS, HA feature, what are the features we talk about it, right? That enables the mobility in entire data center operations, right? So that is one of the key aspects of this technology. And obviously the SDDC, what we have discussed, right? It extends all these benefits to the rest of the data center. So now in the vSphere product, what you have learned? You have learned that we can migrate a VM maybe across the hosts which are part of one cluster, right? If you go and recall your vSphere concepts, or maybe take a very basic example of your vMotion technology, and let's say there is no NSX, there is no SDDC kind of notion, there is no VCF. Let's keep all these product aside, and let's just talk about pure vSphere product, pure virtual machines, right? At that point of time, what we used to do, we used to migrate a virtual machine across the host, which are part of same cluster. And when we say part of same cluster, which means our assumption is that all the host in a cluster is part of same layer 2 network, right? So when all the host in a cluster is part of same layer 2 network, then obviously your DRS can kick in and it can just perform the migrations based on the algorithm the DRS engine is having it, right? But this mobility, so-called mobility, was very much limited to a certain number of hosts which are sharing the same layer 2 network. But then what this SDDC is going to do for us, it is going to extend this mobility, which is not going to limited to your specific set of hosts or the cluster. Now there is a capability in the in the SDDC where you can migrate a VM from one cluster to another cluster, one site A to another site B, or in fact, you can migrate a VM from your on-prem data center to the AWS infrastructure, right? So the SDDC has extended all these capabilities. And now we are reaping all these benefits in the world of cloud, right? So this is what this slide says, that SDDC extend all these benefits to the rest of the data center, right? So that is what our server virtualization, and that is where the vSphere product positioning is. I hope it's clear, right? So vSphere product, what majorly does, it actually virtualize your CPU memory and the underlying host resources. Then let's talk about the storage now. The another important building block of any data center. So compute, memory are the two building block of the data center where vSphere is taking care of it. But then the next fundamental building block of the storage, next fundamental building block of your data center is the storage. Now we all know that why do I need a storage, right? Why do I need to have a very expensive storage arrays coming from a very various vendors like Dell, EMC, HP, Hitachi, right? The reason is that nobody wants to store the data locally on the server, right? Because imagine this is your critical VM, right? This is your, maybe let's say your web server, and your customers are continuously hitting this web server for the shopping purpose, right? So we are taking the example of that sneaker based um, uh, the portal, right? So let's say if my customers are coming and they're trying to hit www.sneaker.com, right? And suddenly they see that the data is, VM is not available, right? There could be many reasons for that. Maybe there's some issue in the web services as well, but that could be one of the issue where what is happening, this virtual machine files are residing. So I hope everybody knows that virtual machine is nothing. It's a bunch of files, and every file has its own significance, right? So once you put all this file together into a one single bundle, we call it as a virtual machine. This is what exactly the virtual machine is all about. It could be from the end user perspective, it could be some kind of machine for you, because when you do the RDP into a virtual machine running a Windows operating system, it could be the same RDP experience for you as an end user perspective. But from the VM kernel perspective, it's just a couple of files, and every file has its own significance. And every single operation, whatever you do it on that virtual machine, what is the source of truth for that VM kernel? VM kernel does not understand what is your operating system, which operating system you're running inside your VM. They don't care about it. From the VM kernel perspective, this virtual machine is a black box. In general, I'm talking about it, right? So when I really see this virtual machine, let's say this is my virtual machine running Windows operating system, and this is my ESXi kernel. From this ESXi kernel, this VM is a black box. I don't know what is going inside my virtual machine. What I have to do is I just have to provide this infrastructure to the end customer where they can install the operating system and get their application up and running, right? Because from the ESXi perspective, the virtual machine has a couple of files, VMX file, maybe your, let's say, NVRAM file, maybe your VMDK file, maybe your VMSD file, right? So it's just a couple of files. What do we have it? And these files are source of truth for the ESXi kernel. Sometimes you might have seen the issues where you try to power on the VM, the ESXi kernel come and say that cannot power on this VM, unable to access the file. What do you mean by that? Right? The reason is that it's trying to find out those files and the pointers. If the somewhere something is messed up in the pointers, it won't be able to power on the VM, right? So this is all about files. Now, when we talk about the files, file is what, right? Whether it's a virtual machine file or whether it's a movie file, ultimately file is file, and file requires some kind of storage to read it, right? Otherwise, how would I go and read the disk blocks? Correct? So basically, file has to be stored on some data, some storage system, right? It could be a local storage system. It could be a centralized storage system. It depends upon your implementation, right? So why we really needed to have those SAN based storage, or why we really need to have this NAS based storage? The reason was that because if I'm keeping this virtual machine file in the local drive, let's say this ESXi host have some local drive, but if I keep this virtual machine file in this local drive and tomorrow this drive is gone, right? Maybe the server is gone. I'm done with my virtual machine, right? Because your ESXi kernel will not be able to power on, won't be able to access this virtual machine because its files are not accessible. How could you access, how could your operating system can access your movie file when file itself is not present there, or maybe it's not accessible for XYZ reason? And sometimes you might have seen your operating system throws error, unable to play this video, right? The reason is that it's not able to file, it's not able to find that particular file on the underlying storage. And to avoid all those stuff, because we are not even talking about desktop user, we are talking about enterprise use cases, right? We are talking about enterprise data center, right? So that is the reason we need to have those centralized storage. So this is what this slide says that. So early days, what used to happen? You used to buy expensive storage, what we call SAN storage. And then we used to have a complete SAN infrastructure right here. So this we used to call it as a target device in the storage terminology. And this ESXi used to become our initiator. So our ESXi used to become, I mean, obviously ESXi is an initiator in the storage world. Your array will become a target. And between this initiator and target, we lay down the entire storage infrastructure. And that is where there used to be a very career path about storage administrator, storage architect, right? A storage consultant, because they are the one who takes care of this infrastructure. They have to make sure that your storage is accessible all the time to your initiators, right? And that is where you have this FCOE, ISCSI kind of protocols, right? Because these protocols are responsible for providing this storage accessibility over the network to your ESXi host, right? Depending what kind of accessibility you are providing, block storage or NAS storage. Based on that, basically, it becomes your SAN access or NAS access, right? That's the basic thing. But the point what I'm trying to explain you here is that in the traditional storage solutions, whenever I need to provide storage to my ESXi host, right? We used to create a shared storage, right? In fact, if you go and, I mean, obviously you would be knowing vMotion, HA, DRS, FT, and all those capabilities. The very basic requirement of VMware was that because because VMFS is a clustering file system, right? And because of the characteristics of that clustering file system, VMware gives you a capability of shared storage where it can actually go and migrate your virtual machine. So honestly, when you go and deep dive into the migration architecture, when you go and deep dive, right, migration is tightly coupled with your VMFS file system, because VMFS file system is a clustering file system. And because of that reason, one of the requirement was that you should be aware of it, that whenever you talk about vMotion, whenever you talk about HA, whenever you talk about DRS, or you talk about any capability of VMware, right, they always say that you should have a shared storage, because multiple ESXi hosts in that cluster should have access to that common storage. And there's a reason behind it, right? And to implement and to get the capabilities of vMotion HA DRS, the very first requirement was shared storage. And shared storage means I really need to have this implementation in place, right? That is our traditional approach. And right, and that is where you used to see that there is a complete silo of the VMware administrator. There's a complete silo about storage administrator, and something goes wrong as a networking perspective, your networking team will come into the picture, which means that just to access your virtual machine, you're talking with three people, three different departments: VMware experts, networking experts, and then your storage experts. And I think if you ever try to create this kind of environment, you would have seen that your storage team will come and say that, okay, give me your ESXi NA ID or ESXi HBA information so that I can actually go and bind the LUN and give you access to that LUN, right? That is the approach. It's a very painful approach. It used to have its drawbacks because, as we have discussed yesterday, right, SLA is very important thing. Today, we don't have a time that you are spending 5 days just to attach a storage to your virtual machine, a storage to your ESXi host because you want to keep your virtual machine on that storage, right? Nobody has time for that. Nobody has time that if my VM is not accessible, VMware administrator will go and tell that, okay, no, please check with the storage team. It's not my problem. The storage team will come and say that, no, it's your underlying network issues, right? So that is a problem. And we used to deal with this problem because we are actually, as a IT, we are working in these silos. And because of these silos, the SLA used to be very high. And that is where what used to happen? That is where the challenges used to come. You used to create something called LUN, logical unit storage, right? We used to create LUN on my storage array, and then I used to expose this LUN to my ESXi host. This LUN could be exposed as a VMFS volume or RDM. That's a different discussion altogether, right? But this is what we used to do it. I mean, we do it now also. Then what you do, you create a LUN. The storage team will create a LUN. You are not creating the LUN. Again, remember this point. You are not creating the LUN on the storage array because you are not storage expert, right? You are not a storage expert. You are just raising a ticket to the storage team saying that give me a 100 TB of one LUN and make sure that this LUN should be accessible by this ESXi host, ESXi1. This is the only ticket you are raising it with the required information. Then the storage team will go and do a lot of things in the backend. And once the backend configurations are done, then storage team will come and say that now you just go and do the rescan your HBA and the LUN will be presented here as a local drive to you. And then what you will do, you will create a VMFS volume or RDM device and then do the required operation as a VMware professional, right? So this is what we do it actually, right? The storage team will create a LUN, then you will mount and they will map this LUN to your ESXi host, or you will be, if it's an NFS storage, then you have to mount that NFS on your ESXi host. Once it's done, it will become an environment where you have a mix of SAN and NAS storage, right? And you would be having a mix of arrays. And you know that, right? There are multiple arrays. Every array is giving certain set of features. FC array have a different characteristics. iSCSI array have a different characteristics. FCOE array has a different characteristics. So you as a VMware architect, you also need to understand that which array is the best for my workloads, right? And that is where you again get into the best of breed kind of challenges. If I need a high speed servers for a high speed IOPS, I'll go with the FC based storage, right? So you do all this assessment, and that is where you again get into the best of breed kind of solutions. And then every array will have a different set of features, just like your networking world, right? Every array will be having a NAS storage will always have a different capabilities than your SAN storage, because NAS is a different, the way your NAS technology works is way different than your SAN technology works, right? And as a VMware architect, you also have to understand that how these things are working, so that what could be the best storage solution for my workloads running on top of my ESXi host. Because tomorrow, if my this website goes down, who will be the first one will be blamed? Your VMware architect, because he has to suppose he's supposed to know that if this workload is critical, he should be knowing that where am I supposed to run this workload, on SAN storage or NAS storage, right? So that is the challenges we used to have it. But then what happened? Because of all these challenges, because of all this silo kind of stuff, VMware introduced the concept of software defined storage. Again, the same idea. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to continue watch this lecture, then join our exclusive YouTube membership program only at the price of 299 rupees INR per month, and unlock your VMware potential with GoVMlab. With this membership program, you can unlock all of our members only content published on our YouTube channel. You can watch out the videos presented on your screen to know the benefits of GoVMlab subscription as well as the membership program. Thank you.